Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Tesla. It is time for another update, and on this chart we have been focusing specifically on the internal structure in a wave tree within this area. Largely we can track here to have multiple 1-2 setups. I don't really care exactly the amount. This structure is indeed highly flexible, but we have here, let's say, a 1-2, 1-2 setup, but I'm focusing on the internal follow-up structure in this wave tree to the upside, where I'm still looking for extensions higher. This is going to be the pattern we are going to focus on at the very least until we form a more significant top, and I believe we are still looking for substantial extensions before we would have a full count within this area. Now, specifically within this wave tree, we have here a 1-2 setup, a third wave up, fourth wave down, and we are looking to complete a fifth wave within this area. Within this wave 5, we are looking to build an ending diagonal, and that is due to the failure to form an initial 5-wave move to the upside. That would have been the ideal pattern to complete because it would have allowed us to track much higher probability interpretations, and it would have allowed us to form a much simpler and easier to trade structure. Now, this is not the case, and I can only track this uptrend as a correction or a diagonal structure. Yeah, we don't have the initial 5-wave move in this area. We have only managed to build here an A, B, C pattern within this wave 1. Nonetheless, we did manage after our correction to form an extension higher, and that is why we are looking in the first place for this to manage to build the diagonal structure. This fifth wave being a diagonal pattern means that within each of the subwaves of this entire 5-wave move to the upside, we expect to build only an ABC structure, meaning that we are looking to build only an ABC structure, a 3-wave pattern within the larger wave tree as well. And you may be wondering, why are we not considering that the third wave top would be in place? Yeah, within this wave that we are tracking to the upside as the wave A, we have a 3-wave pattern. Well, we do have this as a 3-wave pattern, but in this extension, we have not managed to reach the ideal target for the wave 3, which is the 138.2% extension of the wave 1 around the $600 something level, yeah, the 620, let's say, or even 610. I may have not drawn this exactly perfectly, but around that area anyway. Within this initial wave to the upside, we have barely surpassed the 100% extension. We are expecting still to push to higher prices before we would assume a more significant top would be in place for the wave 3, and we actually need to get to that level to be able to reliably track a wave 4 area of support for continuation to even higher prices afterwards. So you see, within this larger fifth wave, we are looking to complete a larger pattern within this area, to build our larger wave 3, to have another correction, and then build another extension to even higher prices. Once this would be complete, we would have a more significant top in place, and we would need to be prepared for a more major correction, yeah? Think something like this larger wave 3 being in place and have a larger wave 4 correction, yeah? Something possibly similar to this. It's just an illustration, just an idea of how this could unfold. Now, since we have been talking about extensions in this area, we have provided the ideal target for the wave 3. We could also be looking for an ideal target for the wave C, since we have a bottom within the wave B. That would be at the 100% extension of the wave A, the $750 level, around that area anyway. Although with the wave C, it is a little bit more difficult to give an ideal target because oftentimes it doesn't quite get there. Yeah, sometimes it only reaches the 78.6% extension of the wave A, sometimes it surpasses it, sometimes it goes even to the 138.2% extension. It's not a hard rule, but it is certainly a level the wave C is drawn towards, and in the end, we will be able to gauge better where we should end within this wave C based on the internal pattern that it will form. We will likely be able to determine when a full count is available within its structure and when we should be prepared for a more significant top to be in place. Additionally, within the wave C, we expect to build a 5-wave move to the upside. Firstly, this could be an impulse. This does not have any other requirements, but it must be a 5-wave structure. So within this area, we're looking for something like a 1, 2, 3, 4th, and a 5th to build this wave C. This is what we have been tracking, and primarily we have been focusing on the idea of an impulse where we would have already a wave 1 top in place, a wave 2 bottom here, and we would be looking for the third wave to still unfold to higher prices. Within this wave 3, we would probably have here a series of 1, 2 setups, and this would be possibly a larger third wave complete. Ideally, within this pattern, we would have still liked to see extensions to even higher prices, but unfortunately, we have broken the relevant levels of support and we need to have some different considerations here on this chart. Now, I did mention this does not need to be an impulse, this could be a diagonal structure, and we do also have that scenario available, but they will likely follow along within very similar patterns, which is why we haven't necessarily been focusing on the exact specifics of each scenario. We did also reach the area of support we would have had for a wave B correction within this larger wave 3 that is instead expected to form an A, B, C pattern in the blue interpretation. We have fulfilled the minimum expectations even for such an interpretation, but right now I don't want to focus too much on these ideas. It is a particularity I wanted you to be aware of. Now, in the case of our structure within this area, we have been looking for a potential extension in this 5th wave, as I was mentioning. Yeah, we wanted to form another high within this area, but we have failed to hold here the 61.8% retracement. And even though in the smaller time frame here, we did have an initial reaction that was quite substantial to this last level of support, we did have some attempts to create here more significant bottoms. We have ultimately failed to hold the area of support. We have even extended far beyond what we would normally expect of such a wave 4 correction, and I am more prepared to consider a more significant top to already be in place for this wave 3. We will of course track that relevant area of support for the wave 4 correction, but before I do want to mention that this structure could still form extensions, still part of this wave 3, because even though I strongly expect this wave to the upside is complete, extensions where this could be instead a 1-2 setup are still applicable to us, and that will remain the case as long as we hold here the $406 level. You see, in the previous video, within the green interpretation, we were looking for a potential 1-2 setup within this area. We allowed the white scenario to still be applicable down to the 61.8% retracement, but since this idea has failed, we now have to shift to only tracking this as a possible extension of this pattern. So I will have here something like a 1, 2, 3rd, 4th, and a 5th. I want to mention very clearly, this structure is not needed to consider a more significant top to already be in place. Yeah, on this chart, I'm looking still for continuation higher against a larger structure, and that would be for the wave 4 correction in the white interpretation. Now, we can discuss a bit the smaller time frame as well, but before that, I also want to provide you the larger area of support we can track for continuation of this pattern. And here we have, as I was mentioning, the area for the wave 4 correction and the levels between the $442 all the way down to the $386 level. And very conveniently, at the 50% retracement, the last level of support for our wave 4 correction, we have additional structural support, which serves as a level of confluence where we should expect with even higher likelihood a stronger reversal that could take us to higher prices. Now, within this correction in a wave 4, we could expect a number of patterns to unfold. Basically, any type of correction could go. We could form a WXY pattern, we could form a triangle, yeah, a sideways correction in perhaps something like a contracting triangle. We could form even a more basic ABC pattern to complete the correction, but ultimately, we must hold the 50% retracement for this scenario to be kept alive. A break below the $386 level in a sustained manner would strongly suggest that this pattern is going to fail, that this structure would not be able to be tracked as an impulse anymore. Now, within the interpretation of a diagonal structure, in the blue scenario, we will still have recovery structures, but those will not be high probability interpretations. We will need to wait for an internal pattern that would strongly suggest this chart is going to manage to extend to even higher prices. Now, in the smaller time frame, we can notice that we already have a potential initial 5-wave move to the downside within this area. We have been tracking this since the previous video, and yeah, we were tracking also a count that could have taken us to higher prices, but we didn't manage to hold the area of support, and now we are focusing specifically rather on an extension to even lower levels for the correction. And since we have an initial 5-wave move to the downside, I'm extremely cautious of a potential extension. You see, within this correction, we had the wave A down, we had the wave B up into the area of resistance. So we have fulfilled the minimum expectations and we are prepared to form our extension even lower. Now, normally, as I already provided you, the ideal target for the wave C would be the 100% extension of the wave A that is right around the $386 level. Yeah, that is another level of confluence with our structural support we have and our 50% retracement, our last level of Fibonacci retracement. Now, again, this does not mean we need to get there. Of course, it also doesn't mean that we need to stop there. But yeah, ideally, if we are to extend to higher prices, we do hold this area of support. Now, internally within this wave C, I'm tracking once again a 5-wave move, but this time to the downside. And here we have a 1-2 setup, a third wave that I would assume to be still unfolding. And then we would need a fourth and a fifth to build this pattern. We can look even for an ideal target for the internal wave tree. I could also even add a quick count here for this interpretation. And for the internal wave tree, we are looking for an ideal target, the 138.2% extension of the wave 1 around the $402.7 level. Now, since I'm tracking an ending diagonal within this yellow structure in the wave C, I'm looking to build an ABC pattern internally within the wave tree. In this idea, we can track an area of resistance that would signal a strong likely to recover if it manages to get broken. And here we are watching the levels between the $429 all the way up to the $444 level. We have retraced so far into the 61.8% retracement, and the break above the 78.6% retracement would be a signal that this bottom is more likely to stay in place and that we should be able to track a stronger uptrend from this area. Now, it's not a must. Especially within smaller timeframes, the counts become less and less reliable, even more so when the patterns only have a 3-wave move. Now, to the upside, I can track a potential 1, 2, 3, 4th, and the 5th to form within this area. If we form this 5-wave move, we would have an initial confirmation that this structure will have better chances to extend to higher prices because we will be able to track a 1-2 setup. Yeah, after an initial 5-wave move to the upside, we are looking for a 3-wave correction and then at the very least another 5-wave move to the upside. This will be a decent area of support in terms of probabilities for continuation higher, but I wouldn't necessarily consider this a trade setup purely because of the 15-minute time frame we are tracking this within. Now, nonetheless, I'm looking still for continuation higher in this idea, only against the 61.8% retracement. So if we break below the $424.4 level, I would be prepared for a more direct descent in the wave C to the downside in this yellow interpretation. Yeah, here in this wave C, we are prepared to extend if we break below the 61.8% retracement. Now, I could provide you quickly even an ideal target for this wave C, but besides all those areas and all this information, there isn't much else to add. And yeah, here we have the $403 level. I believe that was somewhere very similar with what we had for an ideal target for the larger wave 3. But yeah, for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover. And I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.